There are a whole lot of selection of games to choose from these days. Go through any gaming marketplace and you're bound to find something that'll entertain you for hours. Whether it be fun horror friendslop, a highly competitive PvP game, or an obscure roguelike. Indie games are where you'd usually find games that pushes an idea forward, or games that are so obscure it breeds a whole new genre, or even a game that really hits close to home, giving a nostalgic feel of some sorts. Now on the other end of the spectrum, we have the big budget games, the AAA games, basically games made by established companies like Nintendo, Rockstar, Sucker Punch, and many more. Games made by them are usually made to look like the most realistic and beautiful games in the industry. They have legacy IPs where they have continued their known titles since the early 90s or the 2000s, and have brought them to the modern landscape. Mario, GTA, Resident Evil, Minecraft are all icons that many people know of. Whether you love it or hate it, it shows how much the game industry has grown. From a time where you can count each polygons of a character to now barely seeing a single polygon at all. Remastering and remaking older games have gained in popularity as of late. They are made to reintroduce franchises to newer audiences, and give a hit of nostalgia or fan service to older ones. However, it's not often a big company tries something experimental. Trying to change something from a known franchise and it might cause controversy. Try to create something new and it might end up as a failure. It's even worse when they do try to make something new, something that looks promising, only to say it's another live service PvP game. Don't get me wrong, there are cases where they try to make new games and new IPs and it works out really well. But more times than not, they try to play it really safe. So in a world filled with big companies trying to make live service games, remasters, remakes, and sequels of legacy IPs, Capcom decided to make Pragmata. Buying Pragmata was interesting. Now it might not be a one-to-one comparison, but it kind of reminded me when I was younger, buying a game from a game store. This might be because I wasn't really exposed to much of its marketing. Granted, I don't think there was much marketing to begin with, at least compared to other AAA games. It was initially shown in 2020, and really the only time we get any trailer for it were delay announcements, which is scary stuff in itself, since that's usually a sign of bad development, which can lead to the game getting canned. We didn't really even get a gameplay reveal until 2025. Yep, 5 years of just showing us a cinematic trailer with a sorry for the delay note. No one knew what this game played like. We were really just sold on vibes and it being a new IP from Capcom. But that first reveal of gameplay that they showed really intrigued everyone. The third-person shooter with a hacking minigame felt so unique. I know Capcom has always been experimental with gameplay, I mean look at Kunitsugami and Exoprimal. But it's still bizarre for them to not play it safe and bank on a new gameplay feel for Pragmata. But yeah, again, only exposure I had were those few trailers that intrigued me but never really blew me away, and the demo, which I really enjoyed. Which is why it felt like going into a game store. It feels like trying out the displayed game, then seeing the cool box art, looked at the back for the pictures to see what type of game it was and what I'm getting into, and just having faith that it was going to be a fun experience. I don't really know how to explain it, but Pragmata is littered with nostalgia, a feeling of familiarity. The game felt like it came from the PS2 to PS3 and 360 era of gaming, something that felt classical but not old. I think the game design where it's an arcadey level-based game really leans towards that era of games. It doesn't follow most formulas of modern games like cinematic cutscenes, side quests for padding, or that squeeze between the crack as a trick to load the rest of the level to make the world feel seamless. It's kind of funny and stupid, but it was a bit jarring to see a loading screen when going in between levels. It's something you barely see in games today. Now don't get me wrong, the things I've mentioned can be implemented and done well, we've probably seen it many times, but Pragmata isn't striving for that. Pragmata strives to be a video game, not a cinematic adventure. It's confident in what it presents to the player, like the levels, each giving different variety of environments like the overgrown forest in Sector 3 or the failed generated New York in Sector 2, and they all stand out from each other. The New York level has this decomposing facility with laser traps, claustrophobic interiors, and very vertical parkour segments. The moon level has zero gravity half the time and a reappearing boss-like enemy that attacks you if you touch the moon's floor. All the levels feel distinct, but maintains its spaceship future-esque astral chain environment to remind you that you've never left the space station. Navigating through the space station, you're going to be hit with a bunch of parkour areas. These said areas are designed with the good old-fashioned puzzling and platforming level designs, which consist of normal stationary platforms, platforms that are only accessed by hacking, moving boxes puzzles which then can be used as platforms. The movement in Pragmata is also simple. You have a jump, a hover, and dashes which improves if you've upgraded them. And all of these movements consumes meter. The movement for platforming isn't so forgiving. It isn't as fluid and precise as, let's say, Mario Odyssey, but it's not exactly as clunky as, let's say, Elden Ring. It's weird, but it gives this PS1, PS2 era of 3D platforming vibes like Spyro or Jax or Crash Bandicoot, something like that. There are many times where I either overshot or burned too much meter trying to go fast and ended up getting punished for it, so I had to be methodical and take things slow in platforming. The platforming segments are simple and never overstayed their welcome. Most of them did their job as effective downtimes between action. Speaking of action, the gameplay loop of this game is something Capcom absolutely nailed. I'm not gonna lie, seeing it for the first time in the trailer, it felt so indie-coded, like mixing two completely different genres and making them work. Undertale is a good example. It's an indie game which mixes bullet hell and RPG elements. Or something as recent as Dead as Disco mixing a 3D beat-em-up with a rhythm game. The last time I've seen a big budget company doing this was Hi-Fi Rush, mixing a hack and slash combo game, something like Devil May Cry, with a rhythm game, where you have to hit by the beat. In fact, Hi-Fi Rush is also another game that felt like it came from the past. It feels like it has a PS2 art style, and its unique sync combat with rhythm elements feels so innovative. But I digress. Pragmata is a third-person over-the-shoulder shooter, but with a hacking minigame on the side. I was kind of worried if the minigame was going to be a nuisance, but I can say after playing the demo, and even more so now after beating the game, the synergy between the two was perfectly balanced. The hacking minigame is a requirement since you need to expose the enemy first before shooting them to do any form of damage. There are a lot of different enemy types, but the same enemy types have the same patterns. So the more you fight them, the more you know how to navigate their hacking minigame. But after playing more of the game, this hacking mechanic has more depth than I thought. There's icons you can pass through before completing the hack to make them exposed for longer. Hacking nodes that are equipable or picked up from the grounds will appear, which gives you an edge on the enemy, like lowering their defense, healing you, making them more prone to heat, allowing you to do a finisher. Some enemies can create firewall grip, stopping you from hacking, where you need to start shooting it to remove it. The hacking part of this game never gets boring or annoying to me. This is because there's a balancing act between hacking and your other actions. On top of just hacking, you have to multitask between shooting, dodging, picking up weapons, managing who you've hacked or not, and healing. Diana even warns you whenever an enemy is about to attack you.
This friggin' thing is tough as hell.
Your main weapon has infinite ammo, but the moment it reaches 0, it needs time to recharge. This is where they encourage you to use your other weapons and kit, or do some more hacking. Sure, the side weapons break, but there was never a moment where I had that Breath of the Wild gear fear, where I would want to hold on to a strong weapon until a formidable enemy appears. All the weapons that they provide you are viable, some even more so towards certain enemies, like the laser against the invisible dude, since his weakness is on the backpack. Even before most encounters, the game usually gives you a plethora of weapons and hacking nodes to prepare yourself before that fight. With how well synergized it is to balance between hacking and your traditional third-person shooter, it feels like you're controlling two different characters at the same time. To say the least, this core gameplay that they've built is so exhilarating. Even the overall gameplay loop was pretty much do a new level, fight some robots, maybe tougher robots in an interesting play area, do some platforming and some puzzles, get a new weapon, beat the boss, go back to the shelter, maybe hang around with Diana for a bit.
I think I'll pass on snakes.
But you're made out of metal.
I
assume. Get some upgrades, set up your loadout, and do the next level and rinse and repeat. Pragmata's core gameplay is so good that I just enjoyed every encounter I get into, especially the red zones where they just throw a bunch of enemies at you.
Be careful.
Oh, got a fucking... There we go. I did not know he could grab me. Holy shit, that was scary. See, shit like that is so fucking fun in this game. Shit like that is so fun in this game. The rush is so fun. Even though on paper it kind of has elements of a Souls-like with the flask system for healing, the huge damage enemies do where 3 hits could easily kill you. Oh my god, I forgot it attacked so closely. And the bonfire ladder thing that lets you rest and do upgrades. Oh yeah, and using that same ladder to go back to as a checkpoint respawns all the enemies. So yeah, very similar to a Souls-like, but I've never felt frustrated when the enemies respawn. Maybe because there's no rune system, but even more so, I just had so much fun interacting with the combat the game has to offer. So much so that I even beat the trials and the post-game content. I enjoyed Pragmata a lot. It might even be my favorite game of this year so far. I think the reason why I really enjoy Pragmata and why I got so into it is because it's first and foremost a video game, and a great one at that. The gameplay feels so innovative with its hacking and shooting, and yet so classical with its gameplay loop. Capcom's been on a roll this year too, with RE9, Monster Hunter Stories 3, and now Pragmata. We're going to see one of their older games come back too, which is Onimusha sometime this year, and not to mention the highly anticipated DLC for Yalls. I hope they keep experimenting and testing the water with new IPs, since games like these can really stick with a person. Games like Pragmata just has a feel that it just wants to be a fun video game. It brought me back to a time where buying a video game is a surprise, especially since I had little expectations from the start, only to absolutely enjoy it till the end. Oh yeah, the story. Before I get into the last part of this video, I'm just gonna warn you that the next part is going to be spoilers. So do please click off if you do plan to get into the game blind. The story, it isn't anything too grandiose or epic. Sure, there were some interesting things like how AI is ultimately not perfect, kind of a reflection to the real world, or how 8 and the Doctor is a parallel to Hugh and Diana, or how 8 wants to destroy the world for the Doctor. But I think for me at least, the biggest emphasis was the relationship between Hugh and Diana. Even seeing from all those trailers years ago, I could tell this game was going to be those father and child tropes, similarly to Last of Us and God of War. But because I've seen it before, personally I probably could have even guessed how the game was going to end. But man, the relationship between Hugh and Diana is just so wholesome. Seeing Hugh, this guy who didn't really care for kids.
Got kids? Sounds rough.
And Diana, a Pragmata who wants to live, learn, and experience Earth.
Then I can go see your house and the ocean and real trees.
You bet.
Seeing them grow closer so earnestly feels so refreshing. Both of them having meaningful conversations about parents, crayons, and beaches, playing hide and seek after a life-threatening encounter, knowing that they are there to protect each other. This game doesn't have any of that teenage angst or some depressed, traumatized character that we've seen so many times, and that I'm so used to. It made me as a player want to collect more REM for Diana to be able to experience more of Earth. Long story short, I grew attached to these characters, but these characters of which I didn't much care for in the beginning. These characters where I thought their outcome is predictable. Okay, I might be rambling, but I think it means something if the developers can craft a relationship between their characters so pure that when they ultimately need to part ways, it brings a tear to your eye.